Upsets. I mean, major upsets. We're talking upsets 2022 here at the Voice of College Football. Please like the video, share the videos out on social media, subscribe right here at the Voice of College Football for the very best in discussion, debate, and analysis of the game we all love. I know when I run down these games that many of you will say, Mark, that's ridiculous to even think that that could possibly happen. Keep in mind, in 2021, Oregon, 14.5-point dog in Columbus, beat Ohio State. Also, USC Stanford, what was the line on that game? 17.5. Trojans trailed by 29 points in the fourth quarter, losing to Stanford. North Carolina State Clemson, 10.5-point spread. Clemson goes down in overtime. Also, we had Stanford with another shocker against Oregon. Of course, the Ducks coming off the big win against Ohio State weeks earlier, lose to a 9-point dog in Stanford. Purdue, Iowa, 12.5-point spread. Iowa, top 3 in the nation. They fall to Purdue in that one. Illinois, Penn State, 24-point spread in Happy Valley. Penn State goes down to Illinois in that one in 9 overtimes. And, of course, the one that takes the cake for 2021 was Kansas, Texas. Longhorns, a 30.5-point favorite. They fall to the Jayhawks 57-56. These are not your garden variety upsets. 4-point pick, touchdown, underdog. No, these are major upset projections, possibilities. Of course, my final predictions for that particular game and that particular week will come on game week. But these are possibilities that we need to consider. We'll start with opening week in college football on a Friday night at Michigan State. Yes, Mel Tucker and East Lansing, what a job they did in 2021, 10-2, 11-2 with a bowl win against Pitt. There is no way they could possibly lose to Western Michigan, right? Let's check out the history. Now, Western Michigan does lose 2 of the finest players in the MAC in wide receiver Sky Moore and in Caleb Ellaby at quarterback. But let's consider the history. Michigan State, even the finer Michigan State teams under Mark D'Antonio, have routinely struggled against the MAC, playing fourth quarter games, in particular against Western Michigan. Barely winning 28-14 in 2017, 37-24 in 2015, 26-13 in 2013. If you remember those games, you know that the score, the final, would indicate Michigan State with a solid win, but they were one-score games. Many times the Spartans falling behind in the fourth quarter before rallying for a victory against Western Michigan. Also, keep in mind, the Big Ten is 101 and 22 against the MAC since 2010. So the Big Ten has dominated the series, as they should, but still losing a lot of games against the MAC, 22 games in 11 seasons. Also consider, of course, that most of those games were lost by Illinois and Northwestern and the bottom feeders in the Big Ten, not by a Michigan State, but also keep in mind, 2018, Northwestern, eventual Big Ten Western Division champion, pushed Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game, won a Holiday Bowl over Utah, finished in the top 25 comfortably. Well, that Northwestern team lost to Akron. Also, this past season, Minnesota 9-4, a top 15 to 20 team in the nation, lost inexplicably to Bowling Green. It can happen. Michigan State, an early 18.5-point favorite against Western Michigan. Just keep an eye on the Spartans taking on Western Michigan, of course, on the opening Friday night, September 2nd. The next day, we've got North Carolina State, a chic pick by many in the ACC, with, of course, Devin Leary back at quarterback and a fine defense and possibly the most balanced team in the ACC, taking on East Carolina. Yes, North Carolina State's a substantial favorite. East Carolina is coming off its first winning season since 2014 at 7-5. Played well against some really solid competition. Holton Ahlers is back at quarterback for East Carolina. No, I am not necessarily picking an upset. Wait for the game. Wait for game week. But just keep an eye on this one. East Carolina at home on Saturday, September 3rd against North Carolina State. Also on that opening Saturday, we've got Iowa defending Big Ten Western Division champion, taking on South Dakota State of the FCS. That should in no way ever happen, in which an upper division, upper tier Big Ten team would be challenged, let alone lose to an FCS team. But Iowa, down season in 2016, and they might be headed for a down year here in 2022, fell to North Dakota State 23-21 in 2016, and also lost a game earlier that decade against a MAC opponent. So it's happened to Iowa in the past. And of course, this South Dakota State team is coming off an 11-4 finish and a semifinal appearance in the FCS playoffs. And also, when you play offense with the approach that Iowa does, 123rd ranked offense in the country, the score can be close. And if you make a mistake or give some team some life, some hope, some optimism, some energy in the fourth quarter, it can possibly happen. We've seen it before. And, of course, Iowa only beat Colorado State, a 3-9 team out of the Mountain West, a 3-9 team, 24-14, and trailed at halftime. Iowa, look out, upset alert at home against South Dakota State on September 3rd. We stay in the Big Ten Western Division for more upset possibilities 2 weeks later when Purdue travels to the Carrier Dome to take on Syracuse. Purdue challenges and is the upset team on the other side, the flip side of the coin, of course, with a stellar record against top 5 competition and the 2 top 5 wins that they pulled off. Those upsets that they engineered in 2021 against Michigan State and Iowa. But Purdue goes to Syracuse. And yes, the Orange are flawed, but they have one of the best running backs in the nation in Sean Tucker. And Syracuse, of course, last season, they took Clemson to a 3-point game. They took Wake Forest, their division champion in the ACC, to overtime. They took Florida State to a tight game. And, of course, Syracuse in the Dome, dangerous. Beat Clemson in 2017, engineered an upset against a top 25 Virginia Tech team a season earlier. Purdue, look out at the Carrier Dome September 17th against the Cuse. Also on September 17th, this is a heavyweight matchup in the making. The possibility that Texas A&M could break through in the SEC, the possibility that Miami could break through in the ACC. These are 2 programs that are primed to break through in the next couple seasons, but have yet to do so and have not been nationally relevant for a long, long time. But September 17th at Kyle Field, Miami, a touchdown underdog as we stand right now, taking on Texas A&M. The Aggies just brought in the top recruiting class, the all-time best recruiting class according to the metrics in 2022. But this is going to be the first big game for that class. The first big game for Haynes King if he wins the quarterback job over Max Johnson. While we've got Tyler Van Dyke, he has already engineered wins against what were probably the 2 best teams in the ACC last year in NC State and Pitt. So Tyler Van Dyke has gone on the road, not necessarily in this environment, no doubt about that. But Tyler Van Dyke's going to have 2 warm-up games, and he is most likely going to be the better quarterback on the field at Texas A&M. Miami right now a solid touchdown underdog. Look out for the Canes at Texas A&M September 17th. September 17th may turn out to be upset Saturday in college football, and we get a second appearance by Western Michigan. Of course, they pulled one off against eventual ACC champion Pitt last year, 47-44. That was on the road in Heinz Field. Now Pitt travels minus Kenny Pickett, minus offensive coordinator Mark Whipple, minus Jordan Addison, and 2 difficult games. Imagine the letdown for Pitt. They've got the backyard brawl in week 1. Then they've got Tennessee, a very hyped, very talented offensive team with Tennessee coming in week 2. So they're going to have to be up for week 1, up for week 2. Then week 3, go on the road for a MAC opponent. Western Michigan's already done it. They're not going to be intimidated by Pitt. They beat them last year. Western Michigan, could they pull off the rematch win? Upset again. Western Michigan hosting Pitt on September 17th. And we've got even more from week 3 in terms of potential major upsets. Michigan State again, upset alert at Washington. Yes, the Huskies were awful last season at 4-8. but the Huskies played solid defense. Kalen DeBoer comes in as head coach to take over from Fresno State. He's a capable head coach, and he's an offensive guru. Maybe he does fix the offense, and he's got a talented quarterback to work with in a quarterback that's actually familiar with Michigan State, and that's Michael Penix. And Big Ten teams notoriously struggle going to the West Coast. The Big Ten has been a far better conference than the Pac-12 for 7 or 8 years or more at this point. But still, the Big Ten goes west and struggles, and that's the history. Michigan State at Washington. Look out for this one, September 17th as well. 1 week later, September 24th, let's go to the action at Cincinnati. And another Big Ten opponent here. Last season, Indiana crashed and burned after 2 successful seasons under Tom Allen, much expected of the Hoosiers. They opened the season in the top 20, and they were the only winless team in the Big Ten. All right, new quarterback, Connor Baslick. Best recruiting class in program history, may have a bit of an impact. Also, keep in mind that Indiana played Cincinnati tough last year. Don't just look at the final score. I watched the game. Indiana had the ball inside the 10-yard line in the final 10 minutes to take the lead against Cincinnati, a team that, of course, went on to the college football playoff. The Bearcats have not lost a regular season game going back to 2019. Luke Fickell's squad loses, of course, Desmond Ridder at quarterback, drafted by the Atlanta Falcons, and 9 total draftees. Indiana, Cincinnati, in the Queen City on September 24th. Upset alert for the Bearcats against the Hoosiers. The pinnacle of the Ohio State regular season in 2021 was a 56-7 thrashing against Michigan State. And you know what? 56-7, it wasn't that close. Buckeyes led 49-0 against Mel Tucker's crew at halftime in Columbus. That's when it appeared as though the Buckeyes were again the class of the Big Ten before going to the Big House on the final weekend of the season. There is no way with the pass defense that Michigan State rolled out last year, and with Ohio State primed to show that once again that they would be the most prolific offense, if not passing offense, total offense team in the nation, that they could be challenged at East Lansing. But we know Michigan State's history against Ohio State. Major upset in the Big Ten championship game in 2013. Another upset in 2015 to deny Ohio State a Big Ten title and a playoff appearance. All right. Again, a thrashing last season. We know Mel Tucker is one proud man. He teaches toughness, resilience. Can you imagine what Mel Tucker is telling his football team and will tell them the week of the Ohio State game with the Buckeyes having to go on the road? Iowa, Purdue, 2017-2018. The Buckeyes on the road at East Lansing on October 8th. Look out, Ohio State will put you on upset alert, taking on the green and white. More upset alerts in October, but let's now move to the SEC, and one that you probably won't see coming. Will Alabama? Tennessee's getting better. Hendon Hooker's an exceptional quarterback. They've got a ground game. They've got a warp speed offense. The defense should be better this year. Tennessee took major strides in Josh Heupel's first season. We were all impressed with a 7-6 team that could have been 8-5 with a bowl victory against Purdue. That's another matter. Alabama is the gold standard in college football, of course, and expected number 1 team in 2022. Go back to 2015. That was the last time Tennessee truly challenged Alabama. They had a fourth quarter game early in the fourth quarter 2 years ago, but for a full 4 quarters, Tennessee in 2015 led 14-10 late, lost the lead on a final 4-minute drive by Bama and Derrick Henry. Since then, Tennessee has been slaughtered by the Tide year after year. Will this be the year that Tennessee gets back at Bama? They're hosting the Tide. This is a bit of a long shot, but Tennessee at home against Alabama, look out. Alabama's had a history of one letdown even during national championship seasons against the likes of Good teams, not great teams. Ole Miss in 2014 and 15. Texas A&M, of course, and Johnny Manziel in 2012. Auburn in 2017 and 19. 1 week later, I like this one. South Carolina and Texas A&M play every year. South Carolina's never beaten Texas A&M. The Aggies are supposed to be primed, as we stated earlier, for a championship run in the SEC. South Carolina is a feel-good story coming off of 7-6 in 2021 in Shane Beamer's inaugural season in Columbia. Now they've got a real quarterback. They played 4 different quarterbacks last year, and none of them were really established, really decent SEC caliber quarterbacks. Now they've got a real quarterback, one of the top 10 or 15 signal callers in the nation in Spencer Rattler. South Carolina is at home against Texas A&M. The Gamecocks are coming off a bye. They're 15-2 in their last 17 byes. Stat we picked up from our buddy Chris Phillips of the Spurs Up Show. Look out, Texas A&M. After a string of very difficult games in the SEC Western Division, A&M goes on the road. South Carolina's got a bye to prepare. Gamecocks hosting Texas A&M. Look out, Jimbo. One of the great storylines in college football this season is, of course, USC and Lincoln Riley. We know they're going to be much better. They were deplorable last year at 4-8. They have acquired an all-star team on offense and very capable, possible playmakers on defense. They will be remarkably better. Okay, that said, there's always a game or two for any team, even during a championship run, where they're going to get challenged, most likely on the road. Will the ghosts that haunted Pete Carroll and those great USC teams from the past of the 2000s, will they arrive once again at Reser Stadium in Corvallis, Oregon State, USC? And finally, our last major upset is one that we would just love to see. I'm not going to predict it, but Vandy against anybody. Vandy against somebody in the SEC, because they're going to be a favorite in most of their games outside the SEC because they don't play anybody. They do play Wake Forest. That would be a heck of an upset as well. But in the SEC, Vandy's lost 21 consecutive games, and most of them in embarrassing fashion. Now, there is hope. The Commodores almost should have upset a pretty good South Carolina team last year, lost on a last-second field goal. So it is possible if the stars align and everything happens. But who could Vandy possibly beat here in 2022? It could be Mizzou, right? Well, the last couple weeks of the season as well, I know I'm going to throw these teams out, and from a talent perspective, it's not a contest. But Florida, Tennessee at Vandy. Again, Missouri seems to be the best prospect for a Vandy win in the SEC. Vandy against anybody. Please make it happen. We know we're going to have major upsets this year. Where are they going to take place? Your thoughts down below. Your favorite possible upsets. And I'm talking major upsets that are going to shake up college football in 2022. Right here at the Voice of College Football. Please smash that like button. And join us for our next call-in show. We'll talk the game we all love.